Okay. Sorry we're a little late here, but let's go ahead and get started. So my name is Michael Oy with Implementation Specialist. In today's webinar, we'll walk through how to perform a check run in Business Central. So let's go ahead and get started here. So there's a couple key setups that need to be configured beforehand. And I'll go ahead and get started with walking us through that. So the first setup here is your vendor card. There's a specific field that I want to point out, and this field is actually optional, but I found it to be very useful as far as aiding in your check runs. And the field that I'm referring to here is your payment method. So you can actually assign default payment method codes per vendor. And it's purely just for informational purposes. So for example, in my demo company for my Fabricam vendor, if I typically pay them through check, I can assign a default payment method code of check. And you can actually set up as many codes as you would like. So you can see my check code, cash, ACH, and so on. The next setup here is your bank account. And specifically when you're performing a check run and you're printing checks within BC, there's only one field here that we need to ensure is correct within our bank account. So just navigating over to our checking account here that we have configured. But if I scroll down a little bit under the posting tab, there's a field here called your last check number. So if you are printing, if you have pre-printed check stock or whatever it may be, you want to make sure that your last check number is accurate to your last check number in reality, right? This number, every time we print and cut a check in BC, will auto increment based on your actual check number that you're printing. So just make sure that this number here is accurate beforehand. And then the last setup that we need to make sure is configured correctly is your actual check report layout. And so to do that, there is a report selection page called report selection dash bank account. And so if we go ahead and navigate over to that report selection screen, under your usage of check, you just want to make sure the correct report ID is assigned correctly based on your actual check layout. So the one that we'll walk through in today's demo is a stub check stub, but if I drill down to my list, you'll see we have a few other options, check stub stub, and there's one here for stub check as well. We'll keep it set to stub check stub, and I'll show you what that report, or what that check layout looks like once we print it. Okay, so once you verify that all those setups are complete, so your payment method in your vendor card, your last check number is reflecting correctly in your bank account, and you've assigned the correct check layout within your report selection. Now, before we actually get into the payment journal where we will be processing and populating those payments, I always like to run my accounts or my aged accounts payable report just to see what is due, what is outstanding. So I always like to run that report beforehand. So I'll age as of today's date, which is March the 13th. We'll age by due date, and I'll keep the length of my aging buckets set to 30 days. When I run my aged AP report, I always like to toggle on print detail. And so what that does is it'll show you each of your detailed and specific invoices that fall under that vendor. If you have this setting toggled off, you'll basically just see a summary balance per vendor. You also have the option, if you want to apply any additional filters. For example, you could filter and run this aged AP based on a specific vendor if you'd like. I'll just run it wide open. So we'll go ahead and preview and run this report. And I'll just expand this a little bit, but you'll see, so it's basically just your standard aged AP. We're aging as of March 13th, 2025, and we are aging by due date. You can see that, so we'll start on the left-hand side, but you'll see your due date as well as the description and list of all of your open entries or open invoices against each vendor. So for Fabricam, you can see all of your detailed invoices below that. As we move over to the right, you'll see the balance due for each of these invoices, and then you can see your aging buckets as well. So you can see what's current, what is overdue up to 30 days, 31 to 60 days, and over 60 days. And then as you scroll down, of course, it's broken down by vendor. So your next vendor is First Up Consultants, and then you can scroll down through the report here. And then, of course, at the very bottom of your report, you'll see all of your totals at the very end. Okay, so that's your aged AP report. Again, I always just like to run that before my check run just to get an overview of my outstanding invoices here. So let's go ahead and navigate to our payment journal, where we'll go ahead and populate our payment lines and print and cut our checks. Okay, so in our payment journal, at the very top, I always like to point out your batch. So just think of your batches as specific workspaces that you can create and work in. I've seen many users use batches in your payment journal by, you can see here we have different batches by your payment type or payment method. So we have a batch to populate ACH payments, a batch for check payments, and so on. I've also seen some users, for example, create a batch for a specific user. So for myself, maybe I can call this one MO and call it Michael's batch. So I've also seen people create batches for specific users to work in as well. In our case, because we're performing a check run, let's go ahead and navigate into our check batch. And you can see we're presented with a blank payment journal here to begin working from. So there's a couple different ways that you can populate your payment lines and print your checks. The first being, of course, just manually populating each journal line. So I'll start from the left here. I'll update my posting and document date to today's date. Your document type, of course, should be set to payment. And don't worry about the document number that auto-populates here. This document number will be overwritten by your actual check number once you print the check. So your account type, of course, is vendor. I'll select Fabricam as the vendor that will be paying today. And then you can see the payment method based on the vendor I selected automatically pulls in for me here. So you can see Fabricam has a default payment method of check. And I'll leave my amount blank for now, and I'll go ahead and populate my balance account. So I'll update that to bank account, and you want to select the bank account that you're going to be issuing this check from. So in this case, I'll choose my checking account here. And the next step is to actually select the invoice that you want to pay. And so under the field called applies to doc number, I'll go ahead and drill into that field, and you can see it pulls up a list of all my invoices that are tied to my Fabricam vendor. So for example, I will select this invoice here of $1,500, and then I'll go ahead and hit OK. You can see it pulls in that invoice number, but then if you look over back to your amount, it will auto-populate the amount with the full invoice amount there of $1,500. And then the last step as far as populating your journal line is to update your bank payment type. Now, specifically for checks, you want to make sure that your bank payment type is selected as computer check. And from that point, you're pretty much good to go. And we can go ahead and print our check. So to do that in the ribbon, if you select check, print check, you'll see this pop-up window for our check, and you can verify the layout here. So this is stub check stub, and you'll want to go ahead and populate your bank account. Once you've selected the bank account, you can see that the last check number will auto fill in there of 234. So you'll notice that this next check we print will be check number 235. I always toggle this first field on. It's called one check per vendor per document number. The reason for that is if you're paying multiple invoices for a single vendor, we typically want that all to be generated on one check, right? If you have this field toggled off, BC will print one check per invoice that you're paying. So we'll go ahead and toggle this on to put all invoices on one check. Okay, at that point, you're pretty much ready to print. So we'll go ahead and hit print. And you'll see a pop-up here with your check that's now ready to either save or you can go ahead and print. So you can see your first third of this report is your stub containing your vendor name, the invoice information that's being paid, the date, as well as the check number. The middle portion, you can see your actual check, right? So you can see, again, your company name, vendor name and information, the amounts and the date here. You can also see by default, we have our MICR line here, so your account number, routing number, and your check number. If you're using a pre-printed check stock, we could easily remove this if it's already included on your stock. And then on the last third of your report, you'll see your second stub. Again, vendor information, all of your invoice details, as well as your check number and totals. Okay. So really quickly, I want to show everyone the second method. And so this is actually a good segue into voiding. So let's say you've printed the check and you found that you made a mistake or something like that. You can go ahead and void the check so that it's available to reprint. So you could hit void check or void all checks. I'll hit void all checks. Yes. And your check is now voided and ready to reprint. And just to ensure or to verify, there's a column here called check printed. If it is check marked, you can verify that your check has been printed. If the box is empty, you'll know that it has not yet been printed or it's been successfully voided and ready to print again. The second method I want to show really quickly is your prepare. So suggest vendor payments. This will auto-populate all of your payment lines for you based off of a few settings. Your key setting is your last payment date. And I'll leave it as April 30th, but this last payment date, what BC does is it takes this date and pulls all invoices that are due on or before this date and populates your payment lines for you. A couple of settings or fields that you need to make sure are populated: your posting date, your balance account type should be bank account number. We have it selected as our checking account, and then your bank payment type is your computer check. You can apply additional filters if needed. I'll go ahead and filter on Fabricam, and we'll go ahead and hit OK. So what you'll see is that it will automatically pull in all of your payment lines for you based on invoices that need to be paid. Okay, so just a useful tool that you can use there that might help streamline or make your payment processing for your check runs a little bit quicker and a little bit more efficient. Okay, so that's all for today. We walked through all of the setups involved, so your payment method and your vendor card, your last check number in your bank account, and assigning the correct report layout for your check. We walked through printing your aged AP report, as well as populating your payment journal and printing your check. Okay, so that's all for today's webinar. Thank you, everyone, and we will see you guys again next week.